This paper knows more about my life than I ever could. Yeah, no, I'm not usually one to believe spooky tales. Urban legends were never my thing. Nothing more than fuel for some stories. But when my friend told me about the Midnight Paper, I had a feeling something was a bit different about it. There's no real reason why, but hearing him describe the black paper with the white ink captivated me. Obviously, though, it was just another myth. What else would it be? Still, though, I stayed up until midnight just to make sure. And now here I am, at 11:59, waiting for a knock. The clock ticked to 12 o'clock. Nothing. I decided to go upstairs into my room. If I had wasted a whole night, I should at least make up for it by getting a good night's rest. Knock knock knock. Shit. I ran back down the stairs, both terrified and excited, skeptical and amazed. Sitting there, right on my doorstep, was the fucking Midnight Paper. I picked it up and ran back inside. If there's one thing I can say about the Midnight Paper, it's that it sure knows how to grab your attention. The sleek, black pages that somehow almost glow. The beautiful white text, in a font that made it seem like it was handwritten by the most amazing calligrapher on earth. It's truly a beautiful thing. I flipped past the first couple pages. Stories about crazy building trends and poison lined the pages, but I didn't really care too much for them. What really caught my attention was a story on page 4. Breaking, man loses fingers in horrifying break-in. Now, this was the good, simple, kind of horror I could get into. Tonight, at 12:47 a.m., a man met with a terrible fate. On 371 Haskins Avenue, a terrifying demon found its way into a man's house, and attacked him. What the fuck? Fun fact, 371 Haskins Avenue has been in my family for over 3 generations at this point. It was where I grew up, and now that my parents were dead, it was where I lived. Yeah, know what, it's probably just a prank. I made my way back upstairs into bed, Midnight Paper clutched in hand. Surely, this couldn't be real. Surely, it had to have been some trickster, playing on my interest. No matter what I told myself, I couldn't sleep. I quickly glanced at my clock. 12:46 a.m. I watched as the clock ticked onto 12:47. Suddenly, there was a ringing in my ear. As it faded, I noticed them. Footsteps. No fucking way. In a state of panic, I looked back at the paper, and frantically searched for any more details. At the bottom of the page, there it was. Story continues on page 7. My fingers raced to flip the pages, hoping to find any way to save myself. The victim in question was a young 25-year-old man named Jacob Wozniak, a simple man living off of his parents' wealth. He was in his bed when the attack occurred. His ears rang, and he heard the footsteps of the demon. By the time he realized what was going on, though, the demon was already at his room. My head jerked up. There it was. This paper knows what's going to happen to me, and led a demon right to my house. Part 2. Back when I was young, my dad said that people got what was coming to them. There was no way to change fate. It's something I've tried to live my life by. That being said, I don't think I deserved a demon in my bedroom. Standing in front of me was one of the most foul and disgusting creatures I had ever seen. His grayed skin drooped off his face. His eyes were like black voids, filled with nothing but hatred. His long, clawed fingers were extended outwards, ready to strike. And draped over his body was a black cloak with white letters sprinkled across him. If there was a thought to be had about him, I didn't have enough time to think it, as his hand raised up to attack me. I rolled to the left, trying to avoid it, but as soon as I landed there, his other hand was ready, and slashed at my face. I ducked beneath the desk to think for a second. I realized I had no chance at killing this thing. It was just too powerful. My best choice would be just to run away. I quickly rolled out from underneath the table, into a sprinting position. If I was gonna get out, now was my chance. I darted towards the only door in the room, but as soon as I tried, he turned towards me and grabbed me by the shirt. "Don't try to escape this." His voice chilled me to the bone. It sounded like the night. It sounded like fear. I shook my way out of his hand, tearing my favorite pajamas in the process. Better than having my finger torn off. He simply glanced at me, as if he knew I would do it. There was no surprise, no retaliation. I ducked behind my bed. Lying there was the damned paper that got me into this entire mess. I quickly flipped through it again, hoping to find some way to escape or defeat the beast standing in the center of my room. What I found was much more important. When Jacob realized that the demon was poised for an attack, he tried to roll to the left, but was intercepted by the demon. He ducked beneath the desk, to collect his thoughts, and decided to try to run. However, the demon was there again, to catch him. What the fuck? Written in white ink on the dark page in front of me was an exact description of everything I was doing. More than that, it was an exact description of everything I would do. Asterisk if this is the future where I lose my finger. Then all I need to do to change it is to do the exact opposite of what it says. Asterisk simple enough. After rolling out from behind his bed, Jacob was caught by the demon, this time being slashed across his back, tearing his clothes. I leapt on top of the bed and jumped across the room. As I soared through the air, I noticed that the demon was slashing his claws at the side of the bed. He only knew what was supposed to happen. As his hand grazed against the bedpost, he leapt back in surprise. A screeching noise emitted from his chest. He twisted around in confusion. This wasn't supposed to happen. I smirked. Suddenly, though, his screeches became less of desperation, and more like laughter. That doesn't seem good. As he crumbled himself into a ball, I noticed his cloak changing. The white letters spun themselves around the black canvas, like they were shooting stars soaring through space. His screeching faded. He stood up, even taller than before. As he turned to me, I saw a glint of light in his empty skull. His tattered flesh formed into a smirk. Fuck. I looked back down at the paper, the only thing that could possibly save me. I watched as the letters rearranged themselves, just like letters on the cloak. When they had finally stopped moving, the headline had changed. Breaking, man loses arm in terrible demonic break-in. The article was only a sentence long. You shouldn't have tempted fate. Before I could even scream, he slashed at my arm. With the last bit of strength I had, I grabbed my phone, and called 911. I awoke later in a hospital bed. I must have been on an insane amount of painkillers, because I could barely feel anything. There was no nurse watching over me. No one in the room but me. I glanced at my arm. It was nothing but a stump covered in bandages. With my remaining hand, I grabbed at my phone. They had left it next to my bed. The screen was black. It must have been dead. Suddenly, white letters started to materialize on the screen. They were so elegant that they looked handwritten. Displayed across the screen was a simple but poignant message. Never tempt fate.